hope everyone is well and enjoying their trading from back at home. For the past few weeks, due to coronavirus and all lockdowns, we basically decided to trade from home, work from home. And basically today I decided to do a video like this because I basically want to talk about yesterday's history class lesson where we saw oil Armageddon, we saw oil crash to levels never seen before, and that is just unprecedented. So basically I want to help you understand what is happening, what has been going on. I'll do a video with the laptop showing you what has been going on. So mostly today we'll just look at what is happening on the oil market, get an understanding of what's going on, then we'll just do a few breakdowns, maybe gold, Aussie dollar, then we'll move on to other things, maybe better analysis next week. So what has been happening in oil? There's a lot that has been happening. It's not just yesterday, a lot has been adding up. So before you decide, because I've been getting many phone calls, all that, before you decide to buy oil, before you decide to do anything, get to understand what's going on. So basically, to understand what's going on, I'll just use an example. So let me tell you a story. For example, so I have this friend of mine here. So it's just a cat, a dog. It's my sister's anyway. For this example, I didn't get a human. I wanted to use a human, but due to time and all, I didn't get time to look for all that. So imagine this is you, okay? So this is you beautifully going to a skydiving place, okay? So you're going to skydiving company, you've told them you have to go for skydiving, okay? So we'll use this example, sort of like a metaphor. Imagine, I'll mix it with oil, with the oil market so that you understand. So you've gone skydiving, so you're beautifully skydive, you're in the air. So now you're in the plane, So you get to that point where the parachute, instructor tells you, okay, we're in good altitude, it's nice place to jump. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, poof, you're out. And you're going. So now you're just alone. So now you're just going down, you're enjoying the air, it's just a cool thing. You have your parachute on your back, it's safe. It'll get to a point where you remove the parachute, and that's what happens. So you're going down. Now the stupid you or something, just a silly version of you, decides, let's just go far. Let's just go farther and see where we can remove this parachute. So now this is oil, okay? So oil is dropping. It's just free fall. We're just going down, we're going down. Then it gets to a certain point, you get, let's say, you pass 300 meters, 200 meters, 100 meters, 50 meters off the ground, okay? So you're off the ground, like literally the ground is coming, you're 50 meters off the ground. You get to 20 meters, okay? So you're 20 meters off the ground, you haven't removed the parachute, okay? And you know this is what will save you. So you get to 20 meters, and you decide, okay, let me remove my parachute here. So what happens? You remove the parachute, poof, so poof, it pushes you back up, like it gets you back 30 meters up, So when the parachute just comes out, it normally pushes you back. So that was happening, pushes you back 30 meters up. So the same thing was happening to oil. Oil was going down, reached $20 a barrel, okay? And then all of a sudden Trump tweets. So he removes a certain parachute. Trump tweets, he says, I've talked to the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and the Russia President Putin, and he says, we've discussed and they decided there might be a cut of 10 million barrels per day in oil. So what happens? Remove the first parachute, move back. So we see oil shooting back up more than 40% in a day. We went to around $30 a barrel, around 28, 30 over there. So what happens? Remember, you're still falling, okay? So gravity is pulling you down. So don't forget, now this parachute can't take you back all the way back to the sky, so you're still falling. So what happens? You continue coming down. So the OPEC plus they decide to meet, okay? So they decide to meet, emergency meeting. It was meant to be on a Monday, but it was held on a Thursday before the market ends. So they meet, they decide to talk about it. So what happens next? When they meet, they didn't conclude on that Thursday. So Friday came, it was a very long meeting. So Friday came, they had it was more than 9 hours meeting, because it happened Thursday in the evening. It went all the way, my time, into the night. So it was pushed to the next day. Then they didn't really conclude. So what happened the next week? The next week on Monday, which was I think on the 13th, the G20 had a meeting. So the G20 energy ministers decided to meet, okay, what are we going to do about this? So remember, you're still falling. So you're falling. Then they decide to remove a second parachute, okay? So when they removed this parachute, what happened in the G20? They decided to cut oil, which I'll look at it on the market. when I come to the laptop, I mean, and discuss better about that. So they decide to release another parachute, but when when this parachute is released, it's actually a fake parachute. So what happens? You crash, and you don't just crash. You don't just hit the ground. You hit the ground and you go underground. So that's basically what happened. So that's just an example. That's what has been happening. That's what has been happening. You're falling from the sky. You try to remove parachutes. You come in. You're too late. It helps you a bit. The second parachute, it's a fake one. Doesn't work. You just crash. You die. So that's what happened yesterday. So that was a beautiful history class we experienced. We'll never experience that again. I don't think in my lifetime we'll experience that again. But it is what it is. Anything can happen in the market. So basically, let's just cover a few things and understand what can you do, how can you benefit from this, what's the next thing to do. Okay, so let's cover that. So basically, this is where I write some notes. I just write a few notes when I'm following the markets. So I've been following oil for a long time. It's been a really interesting story. All these fights, oil price wars, it's been crazy. So if you just scroll down, just to point out a few things that I need you to look at during this thing. So as I said earlier on, so record oil production cuts at this level. Okay, so oil production cuts hangs in the balanced G20 meeting concludes with no specifics. So basically they proposed to have a 10 million barrel a day cut of oil, and we didn't really see that happen immediately, but that was meant to happen. 10 million barrels a day, which is roughly, as you can see over here, about 10% of the global supply. So they cut the oil supply by 10%. Okay, so over here we're just playing with supply and demand. There's a lot of supply, there's little demand in the markets, which we'll cover that later on. So what happens? OPEC plus propose. Okay, so led by Saudi Arabia and Russia, what you're seeing over here, on Thursday the group outlined a cut of 10 million barrels per day from, so note, that's a very important point, from May 1st, okay, for initial period for 2 months through to June 30th. So for 2 months they are deciding that to have a 10 million barrels per day production cut, okay, for 2 months. So from July 1st to December, the whole of now the year 2020, the total adjustment agreement will amount to a cut of 8 million barrels per day. So started off at 10 million, then they cut it down to 8 million barrels a day cut. Okay, so fast forward, we go all the way down. So immediately after that, the news came out. We still had West Texas oil, okay, intermediates over here, still fell and further almost 10% to settle at 22.78. So when that news came out, it was around I think it was trading at 25 or something. Yeah, around there. It fell further down to settle at that on Thursday evening. Okay, so Monday the following week, OPEC Plus finalizes record oil production cut after days of discussion. So they decide to cut the oil by 9.7 million barrels per day. So that's basically what happened. So the 9 million barrels per day cut will begin on May 1st, which will extend, which we've already covered. Okay, so fast forward yesterday, so 20th, Monday, first thing in the morning when I woke up, I found oil is trading 15% lower. I wrote some few notes here, I just wrote and went away. So basically today, personal notes, what do I see happening? Okay, so oil crashes to negative 37. What does that mean? Many people think the oil market just crashed to zero, we stopped trading, because when you're looking at the analysis, it stopped trading, like for real, like you can't trade it. You try and trade it in your brokers, they can't accept your trade. Okay, so what happens? What's the next thing that happens? So what does that mean? So when the oil crashed to zero, yeah, there's futures, which I'll talk about in the next, it's down, I'll talk about futures contract. So the futures contract crashed below, it was trading, it went to as low as negative $40 a barrel. Okay, what does that mean? That basically means if you want oil, okay, let's say I want to buy oil, but I find the seller is selling at negative $40, let's say, or let's say $30, negative $30 a barrel. That basically means he's paying me to take his oil. Okay, so it's just basic. So if oil is trading at $10, and I pay $10 to get the oil. Okay, but if it's trading at negative $10, they're paying me to take the oil from them, but they have too much oil that they're not even giving me for free. They're telling me, Caleb, I'm paying you to take my oil. Okay, so there are many reasons why that happens. So there's another reason why they're even paying you, but you don't want to take it, okay? Because there's nowhere you're storing it, which we'll cover later on. So as I've covered, so that's basically what it means. So oil crashed to settle at negative 37. Today we're saying the futures market has gone a bit up, which I'll cover about the futures market. So we've been having a health crisis, which has led into an economic crisis. And what does that mean? That basically means that we had the it's a bit too bright. Okay, there we go. So basically we started with the corona. So when the corona came out, many countries started going on lockdown, many people are not going to work, all that. So when the health crisis started, that was the main thing, okay? So many people did not pay attention to the economic crisis. So people like, we're not going to work, people are being fired from work and all that. So all that health crisis, which is inevitable, we can't do away with it. Like, there's nothing to be done until a cure is found. People are being laid off, so people are going off, people aren't going to work, people have been sent back home, companies are shutting down, there's no activity in the country, meaning there's no economic activity at the same time. So what does that lead to? It leads to an economic crisis, okay? So IMF announced that we're in a recession, okay? And that basically means there's a slowdown in economic growth. So when normal economic growth, every year we grow by around 1-2%, okay? But when there's a recession, it means that quarter, so the first quarter, January and March, ended with a negative growth. So there's been negative growth, meaning there's money coming out of the economy, so we're not actually progressing. So that basically what a recession means. So the health crisis, since no one is going to work, no one is doing nothing, there's no economic activity, meaning there's no economic growth, which leads to an economic crisis, basically, okay? So which is a topic for another day. So oil price war, this is where we started off. We started off with an oil price war between Saudi Arabia and Russia, okay? So when the oil when the coronavirus started and many lockdowns started, those supply, because China is the largest importer of oil, and they take a lot of oil from Saudi Arabia and other oil exporting countries. So since they're the largest, and since there was an economic slowdown, no one is taking oil from them, they decided, Saudi Arabia discussed with the Russia, and they decided, let's cut oil production, okay? So what happened next? Russia, with Putin as the leader, refused. So they said, we're not cutting oil production, we're not doing that, it will hurt our economy, we don't want that. So what happens? Saudi Arabia go into war with them, they decide to cut their oil prices. So the oil prices they're selling compared to what Russia is selling was much lower. So they cut the oil prices and they pump up production. So that means there's little demand, okay? There's a lot of supply. Basic supply and demand, that's basic business, okay? So that's the same thing I've covered over here. So supply and demand. So there's too much supply, there's little demand, okay? This time, remember, it has not yet crippled, the ripple effect has not yet gone into the whole world. So supply and demand. So later on, March has been going on, end of March, we've seen the whole world is affected by the coronavirus. Most of the countries around the world have gone into lockdown. So there's no activity around the world, meaning there are no cars on the road. Airlines, you've seen airlines, companies are going bankrupt because there's no flying into countries. Countries have locked their countries, no one is flying in. We're seeing factories are shut down. So there's no oil demand around the world. So basically no one wants oil. So that's what you get. So what is happening? As I told you, OPEC Plus met and they talked to, and here I've covered on this second part. I'll come to the storage facilities next. So OPEC Plus met, it's too late. The parachutes are released, too late. Trump tweets oil shoots, it was too late. OPEC Plus and G20 energy ministers meet and conclude oil drops, and there's no help. So these people met too late, okay? So there's a lot of supply. There's a lot of supply of oil around the world. And remember when I told you it was for May, the oil production cuts was to start in May and not April, okay? So when they discussed, they said the production cuts are meant to start in May, meaning there's still a lot of supply. The supply has not reduced. There's still a lot of supply, and people are supplying a lot of oil. So that's what happens. So the May cuts have not yet happened. Oil is still being produced to enormous levels, okay? So the US, as I said over here, is the biggest oil producer in the world, but it is not the largest exporter. The largest exporter of oil is Saudi Arabia, okay, and Russia is number 2, I think. But due to advanced technology, so they use a technology called fracking, and basically they do shell oil. So they have shell rocks where they use it to extract their oils. That's a whole different topic, a whole different story. And basically that's where the oil comes from. Okay, so they have had advanced technology which has allowed them to mass produce or mass extract oil from the ground, and US is the largest oil producer, but most of the oil is domestically consumed, so they don't end up exporting that much. They even use so much of the oil that much of the oil they end up importing oil from Saudi Arabia and other countries. So that's another factor you should pay attention to. So within the US, so there's a mass production of oil coming in from the country, coming in from other people's countries. So as you can see over here, storage facilities were getting too full. So there's a place called Cushing in Oklahoma where most of the oil that's produced in the northern part of America, okay, I'm not sure which part of America it is, but that's where most of the oil comes from. So when they mass produce, oil comes in there, it's stored there, then it's distributed to the rest of the country. So that's basically what happens. But the storage facilities were getting full. Okay, so they're getting full. What do they do next? So this is what I was telling you about the futures and the contracts, where the producers are producing oil. It's going to negative territory. They're telling you, let me pay you to take my oil, but even if I take your oil, where am I going to put it? Okay, so I don't want it. So you see, there's a lot of panic that happened. So the storage facilities around the world were getting full. So there's nowhere to store oil, and oil is being produced at big quantities. It's too much oil, so there's too much supply, very little demand. That's why we saw oil crash all the way to zero. So all these things were building up. Okay, so if you go down, what are futures contracts? So to understand my next point and what I'm going to talk about, you need to understand what is a future. So what are futures? Futures are contracts for physical delivery of the underlying commodity or security. So basically what I mean is like a contract. So I don't have any paper with me. So let's say I have sticky notes. So basically you come to me, you tell me you want to buy May, the oil for May, or let's say June at $20. That's what it's trading at right now. So you settle, okay? So you settle with the producer. You say, when June comes, you deliver to me my oil at $20 a barrel. So it's sort of almost like a safe haven, because at that time oil can be trading at any price, we don't know, but you're sort of taking a hedge, or it's a much safer bet, especially for the refineries, because they don't want to trade when oil is always spiking, because you never know what price it is. So you decide either, so a futures contract, so you're betting for future delivery, so you're paying it now for a future delivery date. Okay, so futures contract, that's just basics. You can do research on it. I don't know if I've explained it perfectly, but you can do your own research. So futures contracts are contracts for physical delivery, okay, of an underlying commodity or security. Okay, so while other people speculate on contracts, others are buying and selling because they have use for the commodity. So such as refineries. So refineries, unlike us we're speculating, so we're speculating on the spot price. Okay, so spot price is what price the oil is trading at right now. So that's spot. So you can hear spot oil, spot gold. So that's the price that's trading right now. So spot is just the opposite of now futures. Futures is a future date. Spot is the exact real time. So while others speculate like us, so we're just speculating with the price, the others who are actually buying the oil itself, so buying oil to be delivered to you, and you're refining it to sell to now, in terms of gas, different things, kerosene and all that. So when one contract, so as I said, next point, one contract is about to expire at the end of the month, traders start buying the next month's futures contract. So the May contract for oil is expiring today. Okay, that's why there was a mass selling yesterday. So because people are knowing there's no demand and there's too much supply, so they rolled over their contracts. So they're buying the next month, so they're buying the month of June. Okay, so they're leaving alone the month of May, they want to buy the month of June. So that's what happened. So spot oil, I've talked about it, the oil that is trading at right now. So that's why WTI contracts for May delivery fell more than 100%, and it was reflected on the spot price that we're trading at right now. So that's what happened. We cannot trade at negative territories, but the futures contract can be traded at negative territories, and that's what happened yesterday. That's why people who are producing oil are selling, are giving people money to take their oil from them, because they're producing too much, they don't have anywhere to store it. The people they're selling to, they don't have anywhere to store it, so no one wants that oil. was just a catastrophic disaster that happened yesterday. So the contract for June delivery trading at $20 right now. So when the market opens, so I'm not sure if it's gone back to open, we can see the oil futures, the oil market. I don't know if it'll open. I'm not sure. I'm yet to see. I've never seen this before, so I don't know if it'll open tomorrow. It's not been traded at the moment. We might see maybe tomorrow, today midnight, it might open. So it might start trading at this what you're seeing over here at $20, because that's what the June delivery contracts are trading at, and the one for July is trading at 26. So we might see an open at 20, maybe even 10. I'm not sure. We're yet to see. So just to cover a few things, we can see Canada Select Oil has been trading for the past few weeks negative territories. So basically, the oil producers have been telling the buyers, take money and take my oil, but the buyers do not want to take it because they don't have anywhere to store it. We can see Brent oil. What I want to pay attention to is that Brent oil and WTI they normally move in tandem with one another, and you can see that on the chart. They move together. But back in 2011, there was an oil crisis, also sort of not a major crisis, but in the US there was a lot of production of oil and there was nowhere to store it. So we saw a disparity. So they started moving further apart. So the Brent oil was gaining and the US oil was going down. So that's what we've seen in the past few weeks. Brent oil has been maintaining. I think that's around 26, 25 somewhere, but oil is at 0. So basically, so what's next? Oil is just the beginning of the crisis, okay? So as you can see, as I said earlier on, we had a health crisis. Then now we're having a sort of economic crisis. So oil is just the beginning. We might see this trickle down to other economies. Basically what I'm saying is that oil producing economies might enter into a crisis. So I've been doing research and checking out what is happening. So there are a few analyses that have been saying the oil producing economies might enter into sort of a recession or a crisis, because their main tax revenues comes from oil. But now they're having no revenues, they're having no economic activity in the country. So it's basically negative. So they might enter into a crisis. This might cause a ripple effect into other economies and cause another crisis globally. So we are not yet sure. So the next thing is bailouts. So the Feds will pump up more money. For the past few weeks, past few months, you've seen the Feds pumping to the economy more than 2.5. I'm not even sure of the number. It's gone too much. They're pumping too much money, trillions of dollars. So the oil companies are bailing. They might bail out companies. The US companies might not survive. The US oil companies might not survive. So the Feds will need to pump up more money and bail out these companies. So far, we've seen 22 million jobless Americans have filed for unemployment, which is crazy. And which is almost 10%, because America is about 300 plus million population, and it's also earning season. As you can see here, it's earning season. Many companies, the fiscal year is over or the first quarter is over, so they're giving back. They're releasing how their past quarter has been performing. So what does this mean, and what do we do? I'm sure that's the main question most of you have been asking. What does this mean? What do we do? So basically, one thing I'll tell you, when you go to the petrol station or gas station, depending on where you are, what you call it, it is not free. So you will not go with your car to the gas station and find free oil. That is just absurd, because there's production expenses. So production expenses, that delivery expense, all that will add up. So you'll still need to pay for your oil. So yes, the gas might reduce in price, but it will not be free. If you're trading oil right now, spreads are too high, so basically trading oil is expensive, okay? And we might see a further drop in the futures contract. So the futures contract that I've talked about, the June ones and the July ones, we might see a further drop. And why is that? OPEC Plus have not yet cut further. Coronavirus is still putting a lot of economies on lockdown. So meaning economy is not yet back to normal. So if you start buying right now, you're still being irrational. Think about all these things that are happening. We're waiting for OPEC Plus first to cut, and remember, the oil storage around the world is getting full. So that also is another effect that we need to pay attention to. So until we get those things, until those ramifications are done, till things are done, is when things will start coming back to normal. So if you go down, I have a quote for you, and I've basically said, don't panic, be patient, do not rush to buy, okay? There will be greed. Do not be part of it. So right now, as I said, many people have been calling me and they're telling me, Caleb, do we buy oil? Do we buy oil? What do we do? I'm telling you here and then, trading or investing is not an easy game. Everyone around the world is watching the oil market. Everyone thinks it's cheap. I'm buying oil at a cheap price, $1, $2. I'm telling you, people will lose a lot of money in the next few weeks. So do not rush, do not panic. Let's just wait for the dust to settle, okay? So as I've said over here, let's wait for coronavirus to settle. That's my first main point. So once a cure is found, we're waiting for that. Those positive news, that's what we're waiting for. So once coronavirus settle, we'll start seeing lockdowns reopen. So many countries will start reopening their countries, and economic activity will start coming back. When economic activity starts coming back, we'll start seeing oil demand growing, okay? Another thing is that we're waiting for US unemployment rate to reduce, not that just the US but around the world. So when economic activity comes back to normal, we're waiting for unemployment to reduce, okay? And we do not know how long this will take because many companies have gone bankrupt. So the next thing we're also waiting for is OPEC to have a further cut. So the cuts we're having are too few. We need a lot more cuts, okay, to reduce the supply, and we're waiting. So reduction of supply is what we're waiting for, as well as oil demand, which will come from economic activity in the country. The next thing we're looking at is oil storage to sell most of the oil. So all these storages that are filling up, they need to be emptied, okay? So we're waiting for that also empty for the oil stock storage. So we follow what we call the EIA. I don't remember in full what it's called, but they basically every week on Wednesday they release the amount of stockpile in America. So we need that thing to reduce. We've seen last week it hit 19 million barrels, which in the stock up. So it's just stocking up. So we need that number to reduce, to go down. And then last but not least, irrationality to end. So this is basically traders' mind. Many people are irrational right now. A lot of greed. People just want to put their money in oil. Oil is cheap. So that's just bullshit. We've been trading for a while. We know how investing is done. So let's just wait for all that to settle. I do not want to talk too much. This video can go more than 1 hour, but these are the things you need to pay attention to. So just do your own research. Do not jump into this. This can be a sorry, there's a glitch there. So as I was saying, this can be a trap, and you can be caught in the wrong side of the market. So I don't want you to be caught on the wrong side of the market. If I'm here to help you, at least I can do what I can do. So that's basically it. That's what happened in the markets yesterday. Many people were hurt. I feel no remorse. I'm married to the game and we still ain't divorced. So yeah, that's basically it. So I don't have much to say. Let's just look at the oil chart for a bit and then just conclude from there, and we can meet next time. So see ya. So yeah guys, so this is oil chart, daily chart. Technically looking at the chart, we can see Elliott wave analysis sort of showed us direction. So I sort of had this analysis ever since we hit the $65 mark around here. So I actually realized that we had this Elliott wave information when we got to the fourth wave over here. So basically, well, Elliott wave, yes, can show us direction, but it did not show us, okay, it's never shown that we're going to zero. What's the point of analyzing something that's going to zero? Why not just sell it at whatever price? So this is what we're saying. This is reality, okay? So this is unprecedented, never happened before, as I've just talked about earlier. So looking at this chart right now, what time it's 8:30, okay, 8:30 UTC +3 Kenyan time. So market is still here, yeah, it's still at the bottom. We haven't opened. Brokers are not allowing people to trade this pair at the moment. Negative territories, as I've talked about. But like I said, futures contracts, we might see this thing open. Today is when the May contracts expire, futures contract. So we might see that open today with June's contract, which is basically at around $20. June, July, the futures contract is about $20. So we might see market open around above $10. I don't know, maybe $20. I don't know. We've never seen this before. So, well, there's no point of really analyzing this market because we don't know what's going to happen. But all I can say, just to not be irrational and take stupid trades on this one, as I keep saying all the time. Do not be rational. Do not rush into anything. So That's basically it. Nothing we can do much about this. No analysis here. Everything is at negative territories, and there's no basic analysis. If you go down to the forward chart, what I had was sort of technically you can see everything was aligning. So we had sort of this formation like well, A B C D E. So if we take so we sort of had A B C D E till down here. So you can see around here there's no much like territories never seen before. So that's basically it. What can we say? What can we do? So moving forward, we'll be updating if market opens, maybe next week's analysis. We don't know, but just do not be rational, as I've talked about earlier. Just pay much attention to these unprecedented times and do not rush into anything. So apart from that, let's jump into another pair that will give us money at least. Yeah, guys, so that's basically it. That's my oil analysis for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like such videos, just comment below, let us know. You can hit the like button, and we can be doing more of this research, just not technical analysis, but also more of this research if this is what you really want to know about. But we do share with this on the subscription. I can be sharing this, so if you've not yet bought our subscription package, you can purchase it and you get more analysis down there. So that's basically what I have for you guys, and I hope you enjoyed. See you next week.